Hey folks, Randy Newberg here. I am getting ready to do another episode of Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio. I'm over at the Mystery Ranch headquarters here in Bozeman, Montana, or the ranch as some of us call it. And we're getting ready to do a podcast with some Mystery Ranch guys who are serious about hunting, about packing, about building packs, stuff like that. But before we do it, we want to talk about the companies that make the podcast available and possible. And that starts with Leupold Optics. Leupold is the title sponsor of this and everything else we do, from our video content to our Amazon channel, to our YouTube channel, to our Hunt Talk forum. And they are just wanting to do what they can to support public land, support conservation, support hunting. And they make amazing optics. So I hope if you're in the market for some optics, that you will think about a company like Leupold that is always thinking about you. Then we go on to another product that you see us using in a lot of our video footage, Orion Coolers. Go to orioncoolers.com. You're going to see, try say this fast 3 times, the coolest colored coolers. Man, I'm getting good at it. Anyhow, it's not the colors that make Orion Coolers so remarkable. It's how well they work. It's how durable they are, how they keep things frozen and cold. So if you go to orioncoolers.com, buy one of their coolers, use promo code RANDY, R-A-N-D-Y, and they're going to give you a really, really neat tumbler that has all of our logo stuff on it. I want to also, you think about how many episodes you've seen, how much content you've seen of us using OnX maps. Since they started, I'm trying to remember how long I've been using OnX. It's been a long, long time. And now they have a promo code for all of our listeners that if you use promo code RANDY and you go out to onxmaps.com and you use that promo code, R-A-N-D-Y, they're going to give you 20% off any purchases of their app products. And a lot of you ask, how do you guys draw so many tags? Well, we apply in areas that have some difficult access. There's maybe more private land than some people are comfortable with. And the way we navigate that is with our OnX system. There's so many layers on the app that you can look and search for. You can, there's roadless layers, there's fire layers, there's all kinds of stuff. The trail layers, you name it, it's there. When you have that in the palm of your hand, you've really got a powerful tool that's going to make hunting completely different than how it used to be. So go to onxmaps.com, use promo code RANDY, and save yourself 20%. And then, since this is the time of year when we're always applying for tags, so much of our discussion, some of our podcasts are about drawing a tag, drawing a tag, drawing a tag. And people ask, how do you guys get all those tags to film this TV show? Well, the service that we use is called the Insider, and it's put out by GoHunt.com. And I tell people, even if you aren't into having the best draw odds available, which they have, even if you don't need all this research information that you can filter by public versus private land, summaries of how each state works, harvest statistics, stuff like that, just the application strategy articles they have, which are so in-depth. Brady and those guys do an amazing job with those strategy articles, and just those articles themselves are worth the price. But you add all this other stuff of great draw odds, summaries about over-the-counter and leftover and general units. The list goes on and on and on. GoHunt.com, sign up for the Insider, and again, use promo code RANDY, R-A-N-D-Y. And when you do, for our listeners, they're going to give you $50 of free credit in their gear shop. And their gear shop is a serious gear shop. This is not run-of-the-mill gear. Those guys use it, abuse it, and test it, and it's got to pass their standards to be in that gear shop. So if you sign up for the Insider with our promo code, you're going to get $50 to go spend in that gear shop. So now when you hear me click the button, we're going to have the Mystery Ranch crew join us, and we're going to have a good conversation here about a lot of things. Well, we are here at the Galactic World headquarters. I guess we can call it that, guys. Can we call it, what do we, is this the world headquarters, or do you guys have
this is the nexus.
This is it. Of Mystery Ranch backpacks. And those of you who followed our stuff for very long, like since the beginning would know, we've been using Mystery Ranch packs. I remember when you guys were over here on the frontage road out east of Bozeman. How long? That was a long time ago. But
7+ years ago, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And I walked in there and bought a pack, and it worked really, really good. The frustration that got me there was this broken pack of a company that will remain nameless. And so I'd heard about Dana starting Mystery Ranch. I'm like, oh, I got to go check that out. And you guys didn't really even have much of a retail showroom there or anything. So 2 years before we even started these platforms, I'd bought 2 of them, and I'm like, well, this is good. I like this. This is way better. Those were old crew cabs.
Yeah.
You guys don't even make crew cabs anymore, do you?
Well, we do for the military.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we make the crew cab on the nice frame and then another version of it too.
Okay. Well, before we get too much further, I better tell you who's here on the podcast with me, or you guys will think I just showed up down in the lobby and I picked up 2 random customers. Hey, you want to put the headsets on and do a Mystery Ranch podcast? So with me is Luke Boswell. Luke, you are the director of product at Mystery Ranch. Is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
And Tim Hoffer, you are the hunting sales manager. Is that right?
That is correct.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I pulled you guys away from your work. You guys, do you owe me or do I owe you?
We owe you.
All right.
Yeah, totally.
Well, folks, those of you listening, we have the real deal here. These guys, they live it, they do it, they breathe it, just like we do. They do a lot of brainstorming among themselves every once in a while. They'll ask me to come over here and, Randy, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just an accountant who eats at Dairy Queen. What I don't know. Give it to me. I'll use it. But you guys have a whole bunch of new products. I was out on the website the other day looking at all of the new 2018 hunting line products. This has got to be the most new product I've ever seen you guys have in 1 year. Would that be a safe thing to say?
I'll let the sales guy pitch in too.
Tim's like,
I would say, yeah, from a breadth and depth standpoint, that's it's a pretty strong line, from camo patterns to women's stuff to kind of unique day hunting options that still give you the load carriage with the pop-up series. I mean, it's been a super great line, and retailers and customers are really digging it, and it's great to see. I mean, that thing it's got something for everybody. I think, even accessories, you name it. So
yeah. So what do I do when all these people email me and say, Randy, I want to get a new Pintler, but I can't find a retailer that can keep them in stock? Do I give them your phone number?
You do. You just and
then you pass it on to Luke and say, hey, Luke, I'm not here today.
That's right. Go straight to voicemail with Luke's cell phone number. So, yeah. No, I think, we've had the, good fortune of expanding across retailers, all over North America, obviously in the U.S. and Canada, the Rockies being our strongest area. And I don't think it'll be a problem finding what people need if they reach out to some good retailers. So
yeah,
it should be easy.
Well, there's some really cool stuff there. In my car right now, when I do my daily hiking, which I haven't been doing much of, I have my Metcalf because I can really load up a lot of additional weight if I'm feeling real energetic that day.
Sure.
If I haven't lifted enough papers at the office, and I need some more exercise, I'll load up my Metcalf. But that one's in subalpine, and isn't it last summer when you guys did the deal to come out with subalpine?
Late last fall, right?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I got mine last summer. Oh,
yeah, you got a special.
You're on the.
How about that? Huh?
Yeah, behind the velvet rope.
Yeah. You know what's funny is when we're out in the field, me and Marcus and Michael, my 2 camera guys, all 3 of us had early releases. We had 2 Metcalfs and a Marshall in the subalpine, and we were down in Nevada in August in an archery deer hunt. And some guys drove through near where our camp was, and they stopped. They're like, what kind of pack is that? And they're looking at me because I told them, I said, we can't say anything about these packs. We can't post any pictures until we get the word from Ryan and Christine at Mystery Ranch. And So the guy's asking Marcus and Michael, like, what are those? And they're looking at me like, what am I supposed to do? You said I can't say anything. So, yeah, we knew we had the early release on that, but that's, I guess, fun for us to go out and test stuff before it goes live. But in the process of designing and building equipment or gear or packs, whatever it is, the stuff we use, you guys have a very long cycle of design, test, tweak, test, put it in the hands of people who might ruin it or destroy it or push it to its limits or push themselves to the limits. Tell me, Luke, kind of how long is that process on some of these new products?
Well, at minimum, it's 18 months.
Yeah.
At maximum, it could be many years. So basically, yeah, we kind of, even, once we launch something, we then start working on the next generation, and especially something technical like a frame system where you're bringing together all sorts of parts and pieces, whether they be soft or carbon or whatever, right? And trying to figure out new ways of putting it all together so that it works decently well, and then testing it, as you pointed out. So yeah, the next generation of frame system, which we're kind of in testing development on now, has been in design for the last 2.5 years, probably. So it's definitely a long process, but when it comes to our standard, like we're gonna come out with a new bag or something that's more iterative, I suppose, is that's about an 18-month process. Yeah.
Okay. So if someone drives by my camp and sees a new frame that I'm testing, I really can't say anything about that, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess other than definitely no posts on Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's so funny when I come over here. This is like the mad scientist world. You guys are all like Dana disciples. And anyone who knows Dana, and he's had the misfortune of getting stuck on a plane next to me twice in the last year where we're both flying somewhere, and at least the first connection, he's had to sit and listen to me ask him questions. But he's hilarious. He's got some of the greatest stories, and he's told me about things that he's put a lot of time and money into, and it just wasn't, as he said, as close to perfect as I can get it. And he'll give you his lecture about that perfect is an effort. It's a place you're always trying to get to, knowing you'll never get there. Totally. And how he's completely junked and started from scratch. I'm like, holy crap, that's a huge investment. And he's like, well, if it isn't what I think is the best thing, I'm not putting my name on. Yeah. And so when I come here and see you guys, there's some of these images of people where they have this look on their face like they're conspiring against the world to pull off a big surprise. That's kind of the feel I get when I walk in here and look at you guys. You all got this mischievous look on your face, like if the world only knew. But in the product side, you just said something that one of you did about carriage, load carriage. And we always get in this discussion about pack weight or frame weight versus carriage. And some companies, some packs want to just talk about weight. Get to the infinite smallest degree of weight. And sometimes it comes at the price of comfort and load carriage. And before we turned on the mics, we're talking about how much you guys do on the military and firefighting side, and how most often, or quite often, that technology and testing moves over to the hunting side. Occasionally it reverses and goes the other direction. But Luke, tell me, where do you get that? Where does that intersection happen? And is it by pack type, by use, by whatever, where you say, all right, here's the sweet spot between weight and load carriage? Because for me, load carriage with comfort is paramount. Yeah. I'm not going to grab a pack that's 4 ounces lighter that just isn't comfortable. Or okay, I could carry 70 pounds, but I'm going to be in pain and agony when I'm all done with it. So you guys must have some manner. And no trade secrets here. I don't want Dana calling you.
That's a deep question, right? You got to the heart of kind of the Dana philosophy on backpack making. But I mean, in terms of what you were saying about weight, it's really interesting, right? You know, anybody could throw 2 straps on a piece of fabric and put some stuff in there, right? And it could weigh, a pound, but the question becomes, there's a diminishing return as you get higher in the amount of weight that you're carrying on the stress on your body, right? Yeah. So I think that's what's interesting to me about backpacks is it's almost like there's a certain people might not even, if you're not used to carrying backpacks, like someone like you who's out there carrying a backpack with heavy weight all the time, you start to kind of feel the subtle nuances of, how it shifts with your body, how it transfers the load to your hips, like, and how it actually can save you energy in the long haul versus, lightweight, while you're hiking in or something like that. So that's a really fine balance, and it's something where we definitely take the stance that comfort when you're carrying weight is more important than start weight. That's something that we're definitely not afraid to kind of stand by. And it's a hard thing to kind of market and communicate, obviously, because it's like, how do you tell somebody that, we guarantee that even though it might be a pound heavier at the start, like when you put 80 pounds in there, you're going to be a lot happier than you would be with, if it were a pound lighter at the get-go. Yeah.
Because it goes the thing about what do you sacrifice? Where's that pound coming from?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the interesting thing about especially frame systems is, you've got this crazy combination of like hard good elements and soft good elements, and you're trying to kind of find that perfect balance of, you want the soft to be cushy and comfortable, and then the hard has to be, the rigid kind of load carrying system. And so that's really kind of the core of what we do here. I mean, it's built into our mission statement about, we're really out to be the best load carriage equipment maker in the world. And so to get to your question about the military and kind of the influences that go back and forth there is obviously, although, Dana's previous companies like Dana Design were very mountain focused, mountaineering and backpacking. Yeah. It's just kind of funny how that seems to kind of weave back and forth in between these different markets over time. And so when he started Mystery Ranch, it immediately became a military-oriented company. And so, but then a few years later, right, what you were describing, coming down to the frontage road and buying some of the old nice frames, those were packs that were designed for military carry. The crew cab was designed to carry, radio comm systems, really heavy, bulky, strange equipment, deep into the backcountry for military users. And then some guys around here, like yourself, looked at it and said, geez, that's be a pretty good hunting backpack. Like, I could put some weight in there. So that got us rolling. And then, we veered off and started making a hunting line. And now it's evolved into what it is. And hunters started to ask us for more and more lightweight. So we kind of took it and said, okay, well, what can we reduce in weight on this backpack, but not, sacrifice the load carriage capability. Yeah. And led us to kind of where we are currently with the guide light frame. And interestingly enough, a lot of our military design team looked at that and was starting to get some requests from special operators, to get the start weights down a little bit. Going from 11 pound start weight pack to more like 7 in their case. And so they looked at the hunting frame on the military side and said, you know what, we can incorporate some of that, and that might be, a new technology that would help us. So they kind of took it in a little different direction, but very similar, I would say, in overall form. And now, we actually just won a Spear contract with Special Operations Command with a frame system that's pretty similar to the guide light system. So yeah, it's interesting how, with different facets of our company, we're able to kind of share information and find learnings and say, wow, like something that a hunter might have tipped us off to might actually have an application in the military as well. So,
that is interesting. I didn't know that anything that I might give input on could be of any use to anybody. But, well, I see that, what I'm trying to do is give the audience who can't visually be here and see it. You guys have folks working here at every place, every station, every part of this building that been there, done that. It's not like you guys are hiring, I've got a degree and I'm 21 years old, put me in charge of something. These are people who've spent their lives in the case of the military and fire side. They can speak with experience to anybody who's out there.
I've never met so many special forces guys in my life walking through the doors here, being at trade shows and stuff, and then I get told later who they are. I'm like, I had no idea who these people are and what they've done, and I'm going to go back to my desk. I got a spreadsheet to crank on. So they do a lot cooler things than I do, that's for sure. So yeah.
Well, I think that's just been part of Dana's, as he is explaining to me when he built this company, because as you referred to, Luke, folks who don't know, Dana's been in the pack business since Moby Dick was a minnow. I mean,
that's right. That's what, 40-ish years or something like that?
So, I think most people knew his Dana Designs packs was where he really became known. And He's very helpful to local business people here in this part of Montana, of sharing his idea of the business philosophy and just ingenuity and pursuit of better and better and better. And one of the things he's told me before, and I can't use the colorful language that Dana used to describe, or if so, we might have to use the edit button. But he said, to summarize, he said, I want people who've been there and done that, not smart asses who want to talk about what they haven't done and where they haven't been.
That's funny.
So that's as polite of a way as I can say it compared to how you guys know what I'm talking about, how totally. Dana would say it. Dana doesn't have much tolerance for ineptitude or lower standards. So.
No, he's forgotten more about building backpacks than most people know. So
yeah. So anyhow, to see that when I come over here, I always feel a little bit inferior. It's like, man, I just drive a desk for a living. I disinherit the federal treasury for a living. And then I get to run around the woods for 5 months. Well, how do I get to hang out with these folks?
That's a pretty good gig. I
wish we could trade.
Yeah, well, people are going to want your jobs when we get done telling them what all you guys do. I mean, Tim, think about it. Everyone who wouldn't want a business card that says hunting sales manager? They would think that, all right, all I do is hunt all the time.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I got a chopper waiting out front when I get done with this podcast, but,
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be sweet. Yeah.
So what is the hunt? Luke told us what the director of product does. A little bit. He's pretty modest.
Yeah.
What does the hunting sales manager do?
In a nutshell, it's, we have a good list of retailers, like I said, in the U.S. and Canada. And so my job is to make sure that that channel is as successful as it can be. So taking all the awesome products that are developed, brought to market, then the plan is like, okay, now how do we sell them? And what's the perfect product mix at retail? What's sort of our, revenue goals, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All the non-fun stuff that comes along with
the spreadsheet stuff.
Yeah, the spreadsheet stuff that, makes sure, that we keep the lights on and all that good stuff. So, but the other, I think for me, which I think is a little bit of a different, spin on it that is super helpful, is the nice amount of crossover that we get with product development. So I worked at other places where a lot of times it's a little more siloed. You kind of stay in your lane, and do your job. Here it's a little different, where I think we get a lot more opportunity to talk to product development, test stuff, give input. They tell me that that's a dumb idea. Those kind of things, which is super helpful, because I think that makes my job easier, because you have the experience and sort of input from product development. So it's not just a matter of, hey, I think this is a great idea and we should bring it to market kind of thing. It's like, well, have you looked at this, and this? And that ultimately benefits downstream, our group of retailers, and then even, more importantly, the consumer. And like, it was what we, sold to somebody who spent hard-earned money on a backpack that they're like, this thing's going to last me for the next, however many seasons. We want to make sure it's the best thing possible, and it makes sense. It's not just let's just roll something out so we can sell it. You know, that's kind of the cool thing about it is, I can go in the back and sit down and talk to the guy, and you go grab lunch with the guy who designed the next fill in the blank, and that's really cool. It's not some far off design firm, that you may email once a month and get a prototype or a 2D, sort of design and say like, I can't get my head wrapped around how we're supposed to sell this or why we should sell it. And so that part is super cool about my job. Yeah. And then obviously living here is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah. And
and I get free backpacks too.
Yeah. And when we give everybody Tim's number, he can't draw any mountain goat tags himself, but if you draw one, he'll come and help you pack it out. Rumor has it that when Josh drew a goat tag, you volunteered. You let Josh just sit up there and drink beer while you packed it out, right?
Well, this is kind of an interesting story because this was a district that I had been putting in for probably 8 years, 6 years maybe at the time. And Josh apparently just, I don't know, he's like half leprechaun or something, just gold pots and luck. And he put in, it was his first year, and he drew it. Oh, man. And so
we hear those stories all the time, don't we?
And so I was really happy for him. And he and I went to this spot, and this was, this is a while ago. This is before the huge like push into, backcountry hunting and hunters as athletes and lightweight this and titanium that. And Josh now, if you like look at him, I mean, he's pared down everything, and he's half mountain goat himself.
Right.
So.
He looks like a piece of piano wire, just nothing but muscle.
I know. He's just this guy.
He needs a desk job like I got. That'll take care of that physique thing.
I know. He needs to stop working out and getting his base tan on all the time. But he gets after it. And so we load up and pre-dawn kind of thing. And like I said, way before this whole push into, weighing everything in spreadsheets and all the latest and greatest. And so Josh actually hiked in heavy hiking boots, had a huge 80-liter dry bag backpack. It was literally a dry bag with straps on it that you use for river trips. Inside of it, he had a smaller backpack, a Nalgene bottle of chicken noodle soup, and more clothes than I can imagine he needed. And a rifle and a bow. I carried the rifle for him, and he shot a recurve at the time. And so fast forward, through this death march with all this extra gear, we make it up on some ridge lines, spot a few goats, and having a great day. The snowstorm whips in, gets sunny. I mean, the classic alpine weather. And near midday, early afternoon, we spot two billies bedded down and do kind of a sketchy approach up through some rocks. And he had the bow at the time, and he came up over the edge. Eyes get big as pizzas, and the goats are bedded way closer than we anticipated. Unfortunately, the usual errant limb got in the way of his shot. And so he watched his arrow go into orbit, and that's all it took when the goats kind of start moseying up the hill. And that was all it took to be like, give me the bow, take the rifle kind of situation. Yeah. And fast forward to him shooting a really good billy and up and over two more drainages where it goes, we had, hunted our way into this area. And this goat goes down at the bottom of this basin, and we kind of look on the map and trying to figure out, where we're at and how do we get out of here. And it was a long, because we caped the whole thing out, boned everything out, split up the weight, and I think we poured out his chicken noodle soup to cut a few ounces out of there. And we slogged out of there, and we were younger, but in decent shape, but not ready for that. And I remember at one point, coming up to a log that was about thigh height and on the trail, and I'm like, I couldn't determine whether I should try to go over it or under it. And then the whimpering behind me pushed me on to just climb over it. And so I think it ended up being 17 hours or something like that. Ooh. Just one of those just good, fun, boondoggles where you go out and shoot something and it all works out. And we got back to the truck and stopped at a convenience store, and I think I drank a gallon of chocolate milk and had 20 Twinkies or something. And so performance food. It was all paleo.
Right. Paleo Twinkies.
No,
I like that.
They're good. They're hard to find.
So is it safe to say then, if any listener draws a goat tag, they can call Mystery Ranch and ask for Tim and see what days he's available to pack their
I would love it.
It
is that was one of the most fun hunts I've ever been on, and I didn't pull the trigger. So yeah. I'll have a better backpack this time. That's the best part.
Yeah, I had a goat tag in 1995.
Oh, dang.
Back in the AB wilderness. You know how Norman McLean, when he wrote A River Runs Through It, there's a line in there, something about how we owed the world a tragedy and we just didn't know it or something like that. That was me on that goat hunt. I had so little backcountry experience that there were angels watching out for me. I went in there with the most, no offense to Kmart, the most Kmart style equipment you've ever seen.
Yeah.
The worst backpack you could ever have. It was an external frame, clank, bang, somehow I managed to shoot a goat. And my buddy Scott was with me. And if he wasn't with me, I think I'd have died back there trying to get that thing out of there. But I got home and... boy, it was a long, long trek. I remember thinking it all through because when you get to look in the rearview mirror, you kind of think about how stupid some of those things were that you did. And I knew nothing about bear camp clean. So we shoot this goat. I shoot the goat, and it's starting to cloud up. Kind of you're talking about this alpine weather. And we shimmy along this ledge. There's a trail that, he dropped right there. We'll just go into this big cut. And, as we get closer and closer, the trail gets narrower and narrower. And now it's only like 18 inches wide. And it just ends. So we got to backtrack, drop off the face, go over one chute, and come back up that chute. Well, by the time we do it, there is, it's a full-on rain turning into snow. And I don't have good clothing for that. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to get hypothermia back here. Well, then this is talking about not knowing how to do things in grizzly country. There's plenty of grizzlies in the AB. And we come back to our camp, and by now it's snowing. It is snowing hard, where there's these tracks with hardly any snow in them are walking around our tent, or my tent, and Scott was smarter than me. He moved his tent away from the food source. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a big bear. This isn't a black bear. Scott's like, no. So we just loaded up and headed out that night. And we got home. I don't know what time, but it was one of those experiences where you write a lot of things down of don't do this again, replace that, don't ever do this. And so goat hunts are really good places to kind of I suspect if you say it about hunters getting injured, maimed, or maybe even killed in hunting, I would bet goat hunting has the highest per capita of injury.
I think it actually is, even though it's like one of the lowest percentage of participants.
Yeah.
The number of injuries and deaths, I think, is the highest.
It's got to be. And I should have been one of those statistics, as stupid as I was back then.
You do. Hunting's a good
But Luke's over there, he's like, no, I've never been that dumb.
No, I've just never been that lucky. I haven't drawn one.
Oh, you've not drawn a goat tag?
No.
Well, the deadline is April 30th.
I know, it's coming up. I got a lot of points.
I know.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, this is your year.
Maybe. Knock on wood.
Do you want to tell the audience where you're applying?
Nope.
I'll tell them where I'm applying, because I'm just telling you folks. That means
Miles City District. Sleeper.
No, I was thinking of the Glasgow.
Oh, that's it.
I'm applying for that Glasgow district mountain goat tag. But I always tell people, if I apply, you shouldn't apply there, because as lucky as I am, there's one less tag. So if the quota is 5, you're really applying for the other 4 tags.
Exactly.
And they look at me and say, well, if that's the case, why do you have maximum points then?
Yeah. I know.
But this is my year. Did you notice the season open dates in Montana this year for general big game?
It's
October 20th.
Really?
There are going to be elk bugling. I'm going way back to my favorite spot. And normally I'm gone somewhere traveling, filming in some other state, opening weekend of Montana's big game. Well, this year I've blocked that off. I am going to be in Montana because there's a basin. Every time I've ever been in there in October, there are elk in there, and they are bugling. It's a grunt to get in there, but I'm putting it on my calendar.
You're pretty good to call in an elk with a rifle in your hands.
That's almost like cheating.
A little bit.
I did it in Arizona last year, though.
Did you? Yeah.
There's an area called the Kachina Peaks Wilderness, just outside of Flagstaff. And so we went in there and did a backpack wilderness hunt. And we're doing it as a film for backcountry hunters and anglers right now. I mean, today is what we call the picture lock day, that we got to have the video lock so we can send it out to get all the music and audio locked in sequence. And my staff, I'm sure, is going to fire me someday. They trying to edit something for Randy while he's sitting over your shoulder has to be the most frustrating experience in the world. But I'm getting even with those guys because they know I can't hear very well. So we're up on the mountain. I'm taking a nap, and they're like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that? He's right over here." And they're saying it enough that they know it's going to wake me up. And I'm like, "Huh? What?" I'm looking at them. I think they're jerking my chain. And then we keep going and going and going. Finally, we get a little closer, and I hear something that sounds like a burro. And in Arizona, they got a lot of burros. I've ran into burros when I've been out there hunting before in Arizona. I'm convinced we're pursuing a burro. And I'm thinking this is all a big trick. We're going to film all this. Randy's going to sneak in on a burro, and it's going to look at him and give the, kind of burro noise. And they're going to post it on YouTube or something. Turns out it actually was an elk. And so we shot him right, like he bugled in about 5 seconds after his last bugle.
Really?
I shot him at 100 yards. And that's so awesome. I'd love to replicate that in Montana. So folks, if you're listening, this is your year that you might get the end of some bugling activity in the rifle season in Montana. But don't come into the basin where I'm going because this is what got me on this is...
Because Luke and I will be there helping you back out.
There you go. There's some goat permits in that basin.
Oh.
And normally I apply for the Bridgers just because it's such a cool place and it's in our backyard and the odds are like 0.
Yeah.
I mean...
And if you drew it, it'd be just unbelievably cool hunt.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this time I'm like, no, if I'm going to be back in there elk hunting, has anyone ever done a combo elk mountain goat hunt? That's my goal this year.
That'd be sweet.
That would be good, yeah.
But if I do that, this Carriage thing on my pack is going to get tested to the max, Luke. So I'm hoping that
Bring it on.
Yeah, do you have something where fat, out-of-shape accountants can carry 120 pounds without breaking a sweat?
We definitely do. The breaking a sweat part, not going to guarantee that, but...
Without getting hurt?
Yeah, sure. Depends on how strong your legs are, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, right now they're not very strong. I mean, getting up and walking from the desk to the copier, you don't get a lot of exercise there, but...
Yeah.
Which gets me to this thing about, we keep talking about load carriage. To me, it's really, really important because we're carrying, I would say between me and my crew, we average at least a 30-pound pack all day, every day, wherever we go. And our packs, it's almost like clothing. You really don't even notice it. I mean, like you were saying earlier, Luke, if you turn or you duck under something or step over something, it's not like you feel this big amount of weight about ready to tip you over or whatever. It's right there. It's close to your back. It's just, you can tell a lot has went into the pack. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And
well, last fall I had a good one. I was with a buddy, and we were on elk hunting. We had this bull at about 100 yards, and my buddy's behind me, and I got the fortune to be the shooter, and he's calling it in, and I kind of look back, and these two people kind of came up on us. It was this guy and his daughter from Oklahoma, and I didn't really know what was going on behind, but then this guy he gets his bugle out, and he drops back, and he starts helping us call, and this thing comes in.
Oh, wow.
Of course, I had the same kind of errant arrow into a tree branch happen, right? So I took a shot about 40 yards, and the one tree branch in probably a country miles, my arrow stuck right in. So, but anyways, turns out that they had shot a bull the night before in that same area, and they were coming back. It was like right at dusk. And, and they were worried that they didn't hit it good, so they wanted to just kind of let it be. And so anyways, this guy was a total bloodhound, and we just started helping him and spent about 2 hours, and we finally found the thing just kind of up. We kind of crawled up in this weird area, but anyways, we said, yeah, we'll help you, get it out of here. So, and he was like, no, you guys get out of here. You've done enough. And looked at his backpack, and he had a maybe 1980 Kelty, like day hiking pack. And I was like, oh man, you definitely need our help. Like my buddy and I are both geared out in the latest Mystery Ranch subalpine stuff. And so he's this super strong, wiry guy, and he insists on taking like both front quarters because we had 3 packs between the 4 of us. Right. And so I'm like, man, you really don't need to do that. Like, we'll take some more weight. Like this pack can handle it. And he's like, no, your guys are fine. So we load everything up between the 3 of us, and we get maybe like, I'd say 200 yards. And he stops, and you just sees writhing in pain. And I'm like, look, we really need to readjust the weight here. He's like, no, it's cool. I'm just going to drop one of these quarters here. We'll go down to the bottom, and I'll come back up and get it. And I was like, there's really no need. Like, let's just So we started moving everything around. And anyways, long story short is about we exchanged numbers at the end of the day. We had a beer with him at the end of the day. But he called me about 2 weeks later and said, hey, you think I could get a pack from you? So it definitely makes a big difference.
Wasn't his daughter, though, even more hardcore? Cause she
his daughter. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Pack.
She was carrying some game bag, like no pack, holding the game bag over her head, like kind of tied up and just like lugging it. And I just was like, whoa. She's 21 years old, but she was so tough. And I kept being like, I think she was carrying back straps and a couple other things. And I just like, please let me carry that. Yeah. She's like, no, I got it. She was tough.
Yeah. She did not call you for a backpack.
No, she didn't. She's carrying it by hand every time.
Everything by hand.
So just trying to pick some examples of how you guys design and test and go about choosing what you're going to do. And I only know how you do it in the hunting line, so that's what we'll have to talk about. But Luke, feel free to chime in if it applies to the military and fire line. But, if we just take, let's say, a subalpine pattern that you decided, all right, we're going to do packs in the subalpine pattern. And last summer, you guys gave me a bag in advance and said, take this out. Tell us what you think of it as far as durability, as far as noise, as far as waterproof, as far as everything. Came back, gave it to Ryan and gave him my thoughts. And then you guys had other people doing other things with it. So to me, that encompassed so many things. The design of how it works and how well it works. A pattern, who's your partner's going to be when you're doing things like patterns. The materials, because Ryan told me, we're seeing how this material works compared to a material we normally use. It's not like you guys just randomly say, oh, well, yeah, that'll do, or, yeah, make that work. So I'm just kind of trying to let the listener go through the process of how, like, is there this flow chart, or is it so big you really can't even explain it without a visual? Or
Well, yeah, a little bit, but it's simple enough. I guess it's long, but it's relatively simple. We come up with an idea of, what we want, and in the case of the subalpine, we got Sitka right across the train tracks here, and so those guys were kind enough to license us the pattern, and so we're pretty excited about that. And the issue there is printing is a difficult process, especially on the kind of rugged, durable fabrics that we use, because the substrate material is kind of more coarse, so it's not as easy to like just print something on there, especially something as complicated as subalpine. So in that case, right, we had to go to Cordura and, talk about different types of yarn. We need to use high tenacity yarns. And so we worked with Cordura to develop a yarn that we could weave into fabric that would be able to kind of take the print.
Okay.
And so in that case, yeah, I mean, we go through and we do a lot of in-house testing. So we have a guy who's the real mad scientist. He's like total MacGyver, and he develops. We have some like lab equipment that we've purchased, in garage sales and things of companies gone, but. Yes. But he's amazing, and so we'll go through and we'll put fabrics through the ringer. He's got these crazy abrasion testers, and we do all sorts of tensile testing and edge abrasion. We sew the fabric to different materials and basically get bottle jack press out and try to measure how long it takes to rip the seam. And so we do a lot of that before we actually get to the field testing that you'd help us kind of feedback on. But and materials development, especially with prints, is a really complicated process, and it's why it really takes us a long time. We're working right now on some new ways to apply subalpine to a slightly lighter weight fabric than 500 denier Cordura. It's something that we're using currently. It's called 330 Light Plus, and it's a smaller filament yarn, but it's got really high tenacity. And anyways, this is nerd talk here.
No, it's not. It's really interesting.
It's basically a way in which you can pack more filaments into a single yarn, and kind of with a tighter yarn twist, let's call it, right into the weave of the fabric, and it allows the end fabric to be about 90% of the durability that you'd get out of 500D, but about 70% of the weight. So we're working right now to figure out how can we print on this to get the pattern, and I think we might have cracked the code. So that's been exciting for me because it's been a long process. But and then fabric is just one component. We do a lot of work with carbon fiber suppliers trying to figure out different ways, different shapes in which we can create stays that will maximize, load carriage efficiency against weight. We work with all sorts of foam suppliers to try to figure out the right amount of rigidity versus cushion, and combining plastics and foams in those ways. So that's where, backpacks, even though they're a sewn good, I think get lumped into kind of the whole soft goods world and not to say that apparel is pretty complicated. Yeah. I don't think I'd want to do that anymore. But,
no, I'm going to go back to that.
But, it's just it's much more of like a really voodoo science, I guess, when it comes down to it, of like engineering with kind of the more like touchy-feely patterning,
It's as much art as it is science.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Or craftsmanship or tradesman.
Yeah, I definitely. It's hard to say anybody here is an artist.
There's definitely some craftsmen and
well, you're artists of your own craft. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I always like how, because obviously I can describe something, and then it's like, to make it be like, well, what if you did this or what if you did that, and to make it a truly, an actual product, to go from concept like scribble on the back of a napkin to here's an actual piece in front of you that you can use is pretty amazing to watch. Because I mean, like a lot of people, obviously everybody in this room, gear nerds, and, you kind of like to tweak things and make it your own and kind of really get it customized. And I'm always amazed at how quickly it can go from idea to reality. And then it's like, the testing part comes into play, and then it's like, well, prove it. Is it good or not?
Yeah.
Because, and a lot of times, my wife always kind of jokes sometimes, like, why do you guys, you just geek out on these things? It's just a backpack, And I'm like, no, but it's not just a backpack. It's kind of like, I equate it to like boots. There's certain pieces of the kit that if it's not dialed and it's not comfortable and it's not durable, you are in for a short hunt, a painful hunt. And, backpacks do a ton of stuff, for us, that we ask a lot of them. So that part's super cool.
Yeah.
I let those guys do all the mad scientist stuff. I just nod and smile like, that sounds great.
For someone like me who depends on my equipment for 100 days a year, and I don't care whether it's tents or backpacks or optics or clothing, whatever, boots. Whenever I get a call from one of you guys, hey, will you come over and maybe give this a test? I always have this little bit of apprehension of, it works so good now, what the hell are we doing? Why are we screwing with this? And when you guys sent me the first guide light frame had me come over and pick it up, I'll admit that switching from the nice frame, it was like a little baby with his security blanket. I'm like, no, I'm not. Don't take this away from me. But I'm like using it, and I'm like, ooh, wow, somebody was. Oh, wow, this is cool. Well, look at these waist belts. Look at these straps. Oh, yeah. So now you've got me through enough of these apprehensive periods that when you call me, my blood pressure doesn't start wobbling anymore. Like, oh, no, they're going to change something that I depend upon. But it is fun. I guess I don't mean this in any way that it makes anything special, but having the relationships that we've had with a lot of our partners to get to see a little bit behind the curtain before it gets finalized, that's probably one of the funnest things of my whole job is to come over here and talk shop with you guys. And not that I'm talking shop, I'm kind of listening, slowing you down, asking questions about, well, what does that mean? Or I mean, like when you said spear contract earlier, Luke, I'm like, military's buying spears? That's right. That's how dumb I would be. And you'd probably roll your eyes like, no, Randy, everything in the military is an acronym. But it's fun. And it's not just me. You guys have a whole group of people within the hunting world, in the mountaineering world, in the military world that hopefully when you send it out to us, we give good feedback.
That's kind of our basic, I guess, philosophy around here is, I mean, and this is one of the things that working for Dana, has been just the biggest learning experience, I think, for all of us is he's such a good listener. And so when it comes down to it, he picks the people who he knows are, the hardest users, and he just sits there and listens. And so we kind of try to apply that philosophy to every single kind of business unit that we touch. And so when it comes to military, we don't go and try to tell the military what they want. We listen to what they want, and we try to figure out, read in between the lines and figure out the things that we know through our experience is gonna help them, and then put together, hopefully what we think is gonna solve the need and the problem that they're looking to solve. So the same thing goes with hunting or firefighting or even outdoor packs. So that's really kind of what it boils down to. And it's been, I think especially with a lot of consumer goods companies that I've worked for in the past too, you're always trying to tell people what they want, because you're trying to create the latest trend, and you got to be ahead of the trend. And it's really refreshing to work at Mystery Ranch where we're not really trying to do that. We're just trying to find out what the problems are and solve them. So,
Wow, sounds like you guys should run the government. Find out what the problems are and solve them. You guys should all run for Congress.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately, in Montana, we only have one congressperson and 2 senators, so I don't know how we're going to get all of you there, but we could use some problem solving.
Rotate through.
Can I be your campaign manager, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least I'll be your campaign treasurer.
Yes. Manager
implies I'd have to interrupt my hunting season. I'll go so far for the sake of progress in this country, but I'm not giving up a hunting season.
No, especially on October 20th. That's not. You will not be available.
Eventually, we could start up a pretty good sewing floor on the floor of Congress, maybe, or something. That's about it. That's the extent of our capabilities.
They got good space.
Can you imagine Dana in Congress?
That would be.
No, I cannot.
An elected official?
No.
I've seen him interact with a lot of elected officials.
Yes.
And he's on his best behavior. And I don't mean to paint Dana as a bad guy at all.
No, he's a character, though.
With Dana, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, well, guess what?
No BS. No unnecessary nonsense.
Yeah. So with this huge product line that you have coming this year, or that's already there, go out to the website, mysteryranch.com, right? I got that right?
Yep.
I should. I go out there enough. Actually, there's a banner ad on my Hunt Talk website where I just click on it. And pretty easy for me. It's kind of like I don't know my wife's cell phone number because it's saved in my phone.
Yeah, same here.
I don't know the Mystery Ranch URL because it's saved on my website. I just click that. But the new products this year, it looks like some of these are a step into a new area, and that I've not used much are more of day type packs rather than full blown, multi-day packs.
Yeah.
At least some of the ones that I see in the new lineup.
There's a couple. I mean, obviously Luke can talk to this better than I can, but like the Mule is a bag only option.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten a lot of requests for that. The Pintler and the Mule are bag only. So for the guy or gal who has, say, a Metcalf or a Marshall, the big packs they use for, say, a 5 to 7 day elk hunt once a year. Well, the rest of the time you're chasing, deer, antelope, bear, etc., and you don't maybe need quite that much.
Yeah.
Some of these smaller volume bags are still on the guide light frame, so you just don't have to worry about so much pack, but you still have the ability to get anything out of the woods. Another really cool thing that when I first saw it, I was like, that is insane. It was the pop-up frame, and it is literally a folding frame that goes from, when you first look at it, it is a super low profile Daypack, just the bare essentials, not too big, not too small, and detach a few clips and incorporate super robust aluminum tubing like you see in trekking poles, and it pops together just like if you've ever assembled a tent, and put the poles together, pops into place like that and gives you the height advantage of load lifters, and you can load up quartered deer, bear hides, whatever, and out you go. And so that was a really cool one to see. And I will say, be perfectly frank, I was a little nervous. I was like, okay, how's this going to be received?
Yeah.
Took it and showed it to a few of our retailers who, great partners, and they get after it and hunt, really hard, and their crew hunts a lot. So we knew it was going to be scrutinized, and I took down some samples to a retailer, and they're like literally turned around and one of the bags was gone, and the guy came back with it, and he's like, "This is my early season mule deer bow hunting pack."
Oh, really?
He had it all tricked out. He had a spotting scope in it, and he had it all he's like, "This is just the right volume," because he says, "I don't necessarily want a bigger bag when I'm stocking in, and sometimes I don't want to leave my bag."
Right.
And so I was kind of like, "Well, that's great. Super cool feedback to see and hear." And so I think kind of the idea is, a lot of times, and I'm the same way, if I don't always need a big, setup where you need to, have a big frame, big bag, et cetera. Sometimes it's a day hunt, you're chasing antelope, especially like archery antelope is a great example. And you just need the bare essentials. But if and when you knock something down, you got to get it out. Right. I mean, this idea of taking a day pack and then having to go back to the truck and all these trips. It's like, I might as well just, carry like the knife and a tag and call it good, because I'm going to have to go back to the truck anyways. And so, or the gal from Oklahoma, one game bag. And so seeing that kind of innovation and just ingenuity is super cool.
Yeah.
Because I never would have been like, there's no way, you can't make a folding frame that's going to be durable enough and comfortable, et cetera. So it's cool to see.
So when I bring my camera crew over here, if you see one of those missing, shag my camera guys down beforehand.
They will be.
I'll give you their email contact, because we were last week. What was it? What day is it? Is it Thursday today?
It is.
Yeah. Oh, it was Monday, I think. Yeah. We were out on your website cruising and looking, and they're putting together their wish list. And he's like, "Randy, when you go over there, tell them we could use one of these and one of these and one of those and one of these." I'm like, "You guys go tell them." So if some inventory disappears when we're over here filming, Tim, I would come and check my office.
That's good. Or I'll see it probably on the show.
Yeah, you definitely.
I'll be like, I know that guy.
Hey, that's my sample.
That's my sample. That's what they want.
No, I find myself, and this is just, earlier I was talking about how I get in my rut of, hey, this works. And my wife tells me I'm the same way. You know what? You eat the same thing for breakfast. You eat the same thing for lunch. And you eat the same thing for dinner. Hey, it works. All right.
Yeah.
I grew to be 6'2", 215 pounds. It worked, right? Don't be telling me that. Look at your dad. Your family, all the guys are a bunch of little refugee dudes, man. Don't be criticizing. I mean, point is, I'm one of those. I don't stray a lot from what works. So you're gonna have a hard. And this is nothing against the new lines, but for me, my safety blanket of my Metcalf you're gonna have a hard time pulling me away from that.
Just a test drive, you got to I look at it as it's like day hunting, in the skiing world, there's obviously backcountry, and front country. Do you ride the lifts? Do you do that? Do you do true backcountry? Ben here, he every day practically is somewhere in the backcountry on skis. And that's, obviously you need more specialized gear. You're going further and further away from sort of the trailhead. I equate these bags are almost like side country. And that's kind of the dip under the rope, get out there a little ways, but you're not going for multiple days.
Yeah.
But you still need to have the ability, like I said, the big thing is how do you get something out?
Right.
And a lot of times you don't need the full backcountry kit. It's kind of, it's the side country option. So.
Yeah. Well, we're going to Alaska in late July. I'm going to be there through August 20th. We're going to do a backpack alpine Sitka blacktail hunt.
Nice.
Sweet.
Which creates its own series of problems because we know it's going to be raining. We know we have to carry all this camera gear. We know we got to keep it dry. We got to carry our camp. Mm-hmm. We have 3 tags. We hope we're walking out with 3 deer. So that's a whole series of complications and demands that it places on our packs, on our all our gear, but packs especially because we can't go in there and film this with our iPhone.
Right.
We're carrying a lot of production gear. And then we leave that, and then we're going to the interior for a 10-day backpack hunt. And that's going to really it's going to put me to the test more than it is
No
my
kidding.
gear. I always tell people I'm the weak link. My gear can go way beyond what I'm able to do.
Now, what's the interior hunt for?
The interior hunt is doll sheep.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
nice.
I've never done it. It's a dream hunt of mine.
Totally.
And there's some things. Well, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 53, and you get to be a certain age where you say, I've had these dreams. I've been deferring it. And I do worry what our audience is going to think about it, because if you're going to go doll sheep hunting, you have to hire a guide. Mm-hmm. And our platform's all self-guided public land. And it's going to be public land, but I know somebody there who has really made it attractive if we'll shoot a bunch of video that he can have and talk about his operation. And so but it's not an easy one. There's no fly-in. It's 10 miles just to base camp. And then from there, you hunt out of there. So we're trying to get dialed in. And how do we bring just the normal hunting gear, camp gear, food, and all of our production gear for 10 miles in? And then on the way out, he's really being nice. He's telling my camera guy that if we shoot one sheep, my camera guy can shoot one for free.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your camera guy's going to go missing.
Yeah, now the camera guys are back at the office doing the old leg wrestle trick to see who gets to be the camera guy. But seniority rules in this instance. But if we shoot 2 sheep, then we're coming out with all that.
Yeah.
Also, we're going to have a guide and a packer with us, but they're going to have all their stuff too. So, load carriage.
Get ready, Randy. You're going to have to start, squats and stuff all summer long.
Russian powerlifting program.
I know.
Starting soon.
The local Dairy Queen's going to wonder where I've been all summer. Did he die or what? We haven't seen him all summer.
Got to ship some of those burros in Arizona up there. Or something
There you
like that.
go. But it's those kind of hunts that we always do a few of them every year that push our equipment pretty hard, push my body harder than our equipment.
Now you can use a rifle or a bow.
Rifle. I'm not hiking all the way in there and relying on my marginal archery talent.
I would be in the same boat.
Yeah. I mean, I shot right over the back of the 2 biggest mule deer I've ever had a shot at in one hunt with my bow.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I thought, this is my one chance to do this dream hunt. I'm taking my Howa and my Leupold and my Nosler. That triumvirate is going to be that's what I'm relying on. I'm already putting everything else at risk, just whether or not my body will get back there. So I'm not.
That's awesome. No, that's definitely on the short list for sure.
Yeah, and my other dream in life has always been mountain caribou, and again, it's one of those things that if I do it, I'm going to have to go outfitted or guided. And, I'd be interested in your input because you guys hunt a lot and you guys know our platforms. I'm thinking of just telling the audience, I understand if you don't want to watch this because it's guided. But
I think it's the opposite. I think it's because if you polled anybody, they'd be lying to you if they said they wouldn't watch it because everybody's got the same.
Everybody wants to do it, right?
Everybody wants to do it.
Really?
We don't. It's expensive, and it's not everybody maybe can afford to do it. But if it's a bucket list thing, you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
I want to be there.
Yeah, I'd do it.
Yeah.
And you guys spend time all over the West, chasing things. And I've only hunted in like 3 states. 99% of it's in Montana. For the last 31 years or something. And but to do that, there's a few of those things too. You kind of poke around and like the idea of like, what about internationally? Is there like a dream hunt internationally that, outside of say, Canada, I'm talking like, is it Africa? Is it something like that? Or, obviously all the sheep in, like Marco Polo and then some of the ibex. And then you get, it gets pretty lofty pretty fast, But, if you're talking about North America, there's very few people that would say that sheep isn't on the list of any species.
Well, I'd actually turned it down because I was so worried about what image it might cause our audience. And so I called one of my friends and said, hey, this is the deal. My camera guy has to go with you and film it, but this is all it's going to cost you. He's like, I could spend more than that doing a mule deer hunt in Colorado. I'm like, I know, but I just can't do it. He's like, I'm not doing it. He said, if I'm not taking that from you. I'm like, well, fine, I'll call Mike. So I send Mike all the information and he's like, man, that's really good. And then he calls me back on Monday. He's like, I can't, you got to go do that. So those guys all know each other. They kind of teamed up with another guy who I know very well. And they're like, if you don't do this, you're an idiot. You worry too much. I'm like, okay, maybe I do. But I'm always concerned about what our viewers are going to think, and I don't want to be that guy. So you're getting perspective from you guys is comforting.
Now, if your next hunt is some like exotic high fence, then that will probably be the proverbial straw.
Right.
Yeah, they'll be like, what?
No, I would say the 2 hunts that our audience might see in the next 5 years that just have to be guided are my 2 dream hunts, mountain caribou and Dall sheep.
Yeah.
If I had to pay full price for Dall sheep, I don't know that I'd do it because I have so much fun hunting other things. For what's a Dall sheep hunt full price? Like $20,000 or something, plus the costs and the logistics and tags and everything. I could have so much, how many antelope I could hunt for that price? I know this is weird, but that's where my mind goes is, that's the equivalent of 5 antelope hunts. No way, I'd have way more fun on 5 antelope hunts. But so those are probably the ones that people will see. But that's a tangent to the point of we're going to really put a lot of, I guess, gear ideas to the test.
I think we're going to have a sneak peek for you of a new frame system. So hopefully it'll be ready in time for July. I think it will be.
Really?
Yeah. So
do I?
You might want to go with the tried and true. I don't.
So here's what I'll do. I'll bring it on the Sitka blacktail hunt because that hunt it's intense. Last time we did it.
Is that one with the
big bearded guy?
Yeah,
Jim.
Okay.
Pagetail. So last time we did it, Jim's like, this is the worst, miserable thing. You have to, we gain 1,400 feet of elevation and it's going to take us 6 to 8 hours. Well, Tyler, my camera guy, looks at me and I look at him like there's no 1,400 feet elevation in Alaska that's going to take us 6 to 8 hours. 8 hours later or 6 hours later, whatever it was. Yeah, that's
a long time.
Here we are. We're finally getting to the camp spot. And, but that one's going to be less intense than the sheep hunt. So maybe I'll use the new frame, give it a test run on the blacktail hunt, and
If you like
if I
it.
really need my security blanket of my guide light frame, I'll bring them both with me.
There you go.
That work?
That works.
Really, I should just go all in and say, give me that new frame. We're going to make it work.
It's pretty good.
Oh,
the
yeah.
one I've seen.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
I like it. I like it a lot.
So I'll get an advance copy this summer.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Cool. Now the audience is all getting... It's so funny. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this either. I'm not going to. And because of new things that are coming out. But our audience just wants to know what's around the corner, what's behind the curtains. And so we do a few little bits and pieces, only when we're given permission. And I slipped the other day. Leupold has a new binocular that I've been doing as a prototype for over a year. And I said something about it on our Elk Talk Live thing on Wednesday nights. I think it was there. And all these people are calling Leupold, where can I get this? Where can I get that? And they're like, how did you hear about that? And they're like, Newberg was talking about. I'm like, oh, sorry. Randy, those aren't going to be ready until August. Oops. So, but
generate interest.
Our audience are serious hunters. When you were talking, Tim, about geeking out on gear, I think our audience is as big a gear geeks as you're probably going to find in the hunting world, which is great. I mean, they aren't going to cut me any slack. You know, if they think I'm using something inferior, or I'm given the perception that I'm not that committed or invested in this product, they'll let me know about it.
They should, right?
Right, they should. Yeah, and so it was 2 weeks ago on Elk Talk Live. Somebody was giving me the hard ride about using Sitka gear, and how did you end up, you're just doing that because of the paycheck. I'm like, no. I bought Sitka gear at full retail when we started this operation, and I bought Under Armour, and I bought all these other companies, and me and the guest hunters the first year tried it all. And we said, what do you like? Every person voted for Sitka gear. Now, there was not a vote for any other company. So the next year, I went out and at full retail, because I didn't know anybody at Sitka, I bought sets for me and every guest hunter at full retail. Whereas some of these other companies were like, oh, well, we'll give you it or we'll pay you a little money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man, that's really tempting, but it's not the platform we're trying to build. And the same goes for your packs. I mean, it was 2 years later that we started our platforms, and I've had opportunities to use other packs, but if it works for me, that's what I'm using. So this guy who's kind of asking me, around the fringe, he's kind of giving me the business about using Sitka gear. I'm like, well, it wasn't until like my fourth year of using it that I actually ran into one of the founders at a trade show, and he says, boy, I've been watching your show. Aren't you glad we're finally doing something together? I'm like, we're not doing anything together. I've been writing checks for this stuff. And he looks at me, he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. Oh my goodness. He said, you're giving us a lot of exposure and you're paying full retail? I'm like, yeah.
Something to change.
Just like when I bought the first 2 packs from you guys, I didn't expect anything. It's a great product. I'm going to pay for it. So for us and our audience, that's a long way of saying that I turn down a lot of stuff. And if it doesn't work for what I think our audience is going to use and how they're going to use it, that company doesn't have enough love or money to get me to use it. I turned down so much stuff. And
I can imagine.
And when we do our bag dumps, people are like, oh, they see how much stuff I use that I don't have a relationship with that company, but I use it because it works. And a lot of times it's stuff from the mountaineering side or from the non-hunting world that gets hijacked and brought over to an application that works for me. And for me, I just that's part of our brand is, we want to use the best products that we think are there for our audience. And in the pack world, there's no shortage of competitors. And one of the things I've always liked about Mystery Ranch is you guys embrace competition. And I never hear you complain or criticize a competitor or anything. In fact, when threads pop up on our Hunt Talk forum, I'll ask Ryan or your marketing, how do you guys want me to respond to this? They're like, just let it run its course. People are going to have opinions and thoughts, and we'll read what they have to say, and maybe they got something valid or not. But so it's refreshing to work with companies that aren't like, I got to hide my little bag of chips over here. And,
you can't see anything.
Is that just kind of how it is for you guys? It's
I think we look at it as like competition definitely makes you better, right? Like with anything, you're going to push yourself harder. If your buddy's 10 steps ahead of you hiking up the hill, you're going to try to beat him, right? Like so. So I hope nobody's 10 steps ahead of us in packs. I like to think that we're out on the edge, but that's competition is a real good thing for anybody, and so what we're trying to do is focus on the things that we think are going to be new and interesting. Like we want to try to innovate, right? And we have a lot of guys who think, on the design team, who think really deeply about, what does it mean to carry things? Like what is something new? I mean, and they want to push themselves from a creative standpoint to figure out how the human body interacts with weight and what we can do to continually kind of take all the great foundation work that Dana's kind of done and help push it forward. So, and it's not really a big deal for us. It's in fact, I think it's probably only better for the consumer, right? If the consumer has a lot of different options to choose from, and hopefully, we can be the best option. But if we're not, I think we understand. So obviously we're going to try to be the best option and compete for it. But, the more options that you have, I think the more clearly it can kind of define what is good, better, best. Yeah.
Well, I don't know from a sales standpoint, Tim, if that makes life easier.
Tim might not agree with me.
I'm like, would you just make stuff that's the best all the time? No, I mean, I actually agree completely because because we're all consumers sitting here. We're not just, a lot of times you got to put different hats on all day long. And I mean, we have, great retailers, and I have people approach me and say, what do you think about these guys? And what do you think about these guys? And it's like, it's great. It's like at the end of the day, I mean, think about every single thing you do, whether it's for hunting or skiing or fly fishing, doesn't matter what, you pick and choose what works best. And very rarely do you see the full, uniform guy who's head to toe. He's like, I only wear such and such brand socks because they make the best boots and pack and everything under the sun. And at the end of the day, you carve out, that sort of list of essentials, and the brands may be completely different. Yeah. And I have one of my, best buddies, he doesn't run a Mystery Ranch pack, and I'm always kind of giving him grief about it and stuff. But he's just like, no, it's nothing against you guys. This is what I like to wear. And I'm like, that's cool. Again, it goes back to competition, and you can never kind of rest on your laurels, when you have good competition, because it keeps things, you're always innovating. You're thinking, 2 steps ahead. And from a sales side, sure, it makes it a little more challenging because you kind of have to answer different questions, about things. And, but it goes back to what Luke said. Yeah, the competition keeps us sharp. And the nice thing, we've got tons of experience, doing this. And so it's not like we're trying to reinvent the wheel or don't understand or been down roads before that may not have been successful. Yeah. I think bouts of failure are pretty darn good teachers, so I think that's the best part about it. So.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting line. I was talking about that film we're trying to get done and locked in today. One of my lines in there is, I think success is just a series of failures. Mm-hmm. Totally. In elk hunting, anyhow. Oh, yeah. And I think in a lot of things in life. And we had to cut it down to 15 minutes. So we had to get rid of a lot of the stuff. But one of the other things was how hunting is such real life preparation where you're going to fail 9 out of 10 times. Mm-hmm. But let's think about it. In business, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. And hunting teaches me so many real life lessons that I apply to business. There's factors you can't control. Just like in the business world, you can't necessarily control who is producing content like I am, my competitors. I can only control what I can control. Well, in hunting, I can't control the weather. I can't control the hunting pressure. Right. So I view so many things that I learn or get reminded while I'm hunting that apply to other parts of my life. And so when you were saying that, my mind is like, yeah, hunting is a pretty darn good testing ground for business ideas too.
Yeah. You can't, you can't fool the weather. You can't, what is the old saying? You just control the controllables, or try to manage those things that you do have control over. But hunting's a pretty good teacher.
Yeah, so. Well, and I just like how you guys embrace competition. I mean, you guys are so positive and upbeat about everything. It's, for me, when I come over here, it's just really nice. And you've never asked me to say or do anything that is, in fact, it's pretty well laid out in our agreement that I only speak positively about Mystery Ranch. I cannot speak negatively about anyone else.
Well, I mean, I think in your field testing, though, we appreciate when you give us the critical feedback as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's nothing in the contract that
I remember when there was a product, you were like, well, this is what I don't like about it. You know, and it was just like, I was like, oh man, it's like I want you to like, but she's like, hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So I think that's good.
We got to keep doing those kind of things because for me, when we went through some of those phases, I learned some stuff too. Like there's some technology you guys have here that my mind is like, this needs to be applied to this solution and this solution and this solution. And we just need to carve out the time for you guys, for me to tell you my really stupid ideas. And you guys can say, well, we humored him, roll it up in a ball and throw it in the trash. But some of those things that you guys gave me to just experiment with, there's some really cool stuff in there that my mind had some different tweaks on stuff that I don't know if you guys had even thought about. And you might say, Randy, the market for that is two people, you and your camera guy. Sorry, we're not going to retool here for you and your camera guy. But that stuff's always fun to get to do that. One of the other cool things about you guys and Mystery Ranch is, I guess there's two other things I want to talk about is you're always supporting the conservation groups. And hunting is a pretty serious thing around here. You come in, and I've swung by here a time or two in September, October, November, and the very first question you hear bouncing from cubicle to office is, yeah, you're going to go kill that bull tonight? That SOB, the wind screwed me up last night. So there's a lot of hunting knowledge here that you guys are out doing what my audience does. So it's not like you guys are strictly this and say, oh, go make this work in the hunting world. This is very organic for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the super cool thing about it. Kind of goes back to, earlier talking about like who we have under this roof, and different disciplines and expertise and things like that. And obviously there's probably a good reason we're in Bozeman and not somewhere, we're not in some high rise somewhere. It's a little tough to, kind of have that experience, every day, it's nice having, the M is right behind us more or less. And you can jump out at lunchtime and test something and, schlep some sandbags up and see how it feels and come back and get some feedback. And then, like in the fall, it's, that's the name of the game. We want to put the product to use and hopefully everybody comes out with a lot more weight than they went in with. And, on the conservation front, I think for us, it kind of goes hand in hand. We are I can't think of anybody under this roof who goes on guided hunts routinely or, has some like big private ranch locked up somewhere. And for those that do, that's awesome. But, we're dealing with the majority here. And frankly, there's so much good hunting, I'm speaking to Montana, of course, but all across the West that is, public lands. And I think everybody listening and anybody who hunts holds it pretty near and dear. So if we can, get on the same page with these folks and, support good groups, then we're obviously going to do it because it's only in our best, interest, probably obviously from a professional standpoint, but more importantly, I think a personal standpoint, it's like if we don't have this stuff, then what we do and what we love to do kind of obviously is at risk. So, yeah.
Well, I get drawn into a lot of public land politics arenas, discussions. Sometimes they're what I'll call almost private meetings. And I know we've talked about Dana a few times, but when Dana speaks at those small group meetings to these decision makers, he lets them know where the bear shits in the buckwheat as it relates to public lands.
I'm sure he does some fist pounding too.
Yeah.
The hunting world could not ask for a better, more compelling, and more respected advocate for public lands than Dana.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to say what public lands mean to him, his employees, his community. He views Bozeman as like his family.
Yeah, totally.
And he'll start rattling off all these people of, we went in this and we went in that. And he sees it not just through my eyes and our eyes as hunters, but he sees it from even a bigger perspective. And so I love it when he walks into these meetings and, all right, here comes somebody who employs, how many employees you guys have here?
Just over 100.
100
including
here
the sewing floor.
And then around. I mean, when someone comes and says, you know what, I've got 100 employees that if it wasn't for public lands, I don't know how many of them would have a job, and I pay them as good as I possibly can, and we this and we that. That gets people's attention.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, he actually means it. Like when there's powder days around here. Like I remember last year, I don't know, it was a pretty good snow day, and it was a ghost town around upstairs, and I happened to be here like an idiot, and he actually came in and was like poking his head in the office, and he kind of like did a double take. He's like, "What the hell are you still doing here?" And it was like legit, because there's other places that talk about that, like the flexibility and stuff, but he meant it, and he was actually a little bit, I think, ticked that I was still at my desk, and it was like puking snow, and kind of like, you're right, I probably should go skiing. So that kind of mentality is cool. So
wow. And for me and our platforms and our brands, that's a huge part of the partnerships we have is where are they on conservation? Where are they on public lands? These things that matter to our audience. I can speak for myself. I moved to Bozeman, Montana in 1991. My wife took a 70% pay cut. I didn't take that big of a pay cut, but I took a pretty big pay cut to move and live in a place with what opportunity exists here.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one. Pretty much everybody I deal with either took a pay cut to come here or turned down pay raises to go somewhere else. We're heavily vested in this in the form of opportunity costs. And my audience who's listening is most of them are probably saying, I can relate to that. Or someday I'm going to be doing that. I'm getting out of the big city and I'm coming to do that. And it's the public land and conservation part that creates that value that we all seek and we want. And so I'm all about companies and partners that are in on that, because last thing I'd want is to be out there raising hell with politicians and have some company call me and say, Randy, you can't be doing that.
Right.
Pretty much all of my partners are like, Randy, we got this email about you. Give them hell.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because like I said, it's the name of the game. It's what keeps us here and keeps us doing what we like to do. So
you guys have been just recently, there's this new Montana Master Hunter program that Mystery Ranch has been a big promoter of. And they asked me to help. They wanted me to teach one of the classes. And I showed George my calendar, and he's like, I don't think you got any gaps in that calendar. I'm like, no, I got a lot of double bookings, but I don't have any gaps. And so I was helping them like 4 or 5 years ago when Matt Bitts and Zach Brown and Bill Bryan were working on that. And then they brought Scott Hubbard and a bunch of other people in who now it's so cool because I had to step away. I'm like, guys, I'm like of no value here. I show up to 1 out of every 10 meetings, and I got to reintroduce myself to everybody because it's been so long since I've been able to attend. And so now to see it become reality and see some of my partners like you guys, Mystery Ranch, supporting this next level of what it is. You guys seem to have bought into that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a pretty cool program. I mean, I saw a little blurb on the local news about it, obviously checking out the website. And kind of the gist of it is giving literally classroom instruction as well as field instruction, everything from conservation, land use, ethics,
landowner
relationship is a huge component of it, which I think is one of the biggest benefits to it. Is to kind of the mutually beneficial relationships that hunters can develop with landowners. So, in a nutshell, it's a pilot program. Right now, it's limited to, I think, 30 hunters, primarily rifle hunters, just because I think bow hunting adds a level of complexity that for future projects or future programs will probably tackle. But to really understand and kind of do a deep dive that takes, what we've all gone through with hunter safety, kind of a next level.
Right.
So benefits to new hunters, longtime hunters, et cetera. And I think what it does nicely is parallels the sort of public land initiative, where it's taking one step further and getting hunters that complete the course, and it's not like a guarantee or anything, but it just allows and it vets hunters for landowners more so to give them the sort of confidence in that they've invested the time, effort, and money to go through this, to become more skilled, more basically aware, and more sort of conscientious about the sport of hunting, as well as what it's like to hunt potentially on private land.
Yeah.
And, I grew up in central Montana, and I remember when I was like 12, 13 years old, my dad would go knock on the door of a local rancher, and it was like, yeah, sure, drive through that gate and hunt wherever you want. Yeah. Fast forward, and it is very, very different. And so I think the nice thing about this is it kind of gets away from, just that every Tom, Dick, and Harry knocking on a door kind of thing, and it like gives landowners a bit more confidence in who's going to be hunting. Yeah. And they've proven themselves, so to speak, with some instruction and things like that. So,
well, and the hope of the program too is that it's going to provide more access to those people who have the certificate. That, outside of block management, they're going to have access to additional private lands. That's going to allow them kind of more access opportunities to even public land. So
because you've got obviously ranchers that have high populations of elk and deer, and there's damage hunts and things like that. But those are lottery style and later in the season. So it's going to be an interesting program, I think.
It's so worthwhile. I look at a lot of the groups that are supporting it. In the sake of full disclosure, I sit on the board of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. Not that I had any sway in it, but I was happy when they submitted to our staff, to the Elk Foundation staff, for support. And staff must have said, yeah, good idea, because I look, and the Elk Foundation is one of the supporters of the program. And I really hope it gains the traction, because access, whether it's public or private, is good. I don't, because we do all public land hunting, that goes back to the why of our business model, is to promote self-guided public land hunting and create advocates to that cause. So that's the only reason why I don't care if people, if you got access to private, go for it. Any access for hunting is good access in my mind. And as someone who hunts on public land, this is somewhat selfish, is to say, I want to see more people have access to private, because it lowers the pressure on the public land. And maybe that's one less guy who's in this drainage that I'm going to be in on October 20th.
With a goat tag in your pocket, right?
And so a program like this, I hope it is. This is the pilot period, right? And you said 30
participants out of the gate. Okay. And so we're coming up on, if I remember correctly, the sort of cutoff point for admission, and it'll kick off in April and May. I think it's every Saturday. So, and it's 40 hours of classroom, and then there's field work. They're going to do a basically like effective range with your weapon of choice, whether it's obviously rifles being the primary focus, but making sure people are comfortable, whatever range they're feel comfortable with, and most effectively. I believe there's going to be kind of an overnight, so it's a real, like a true field immersion kind of thing, where you're out there shooting and understanding, wind and angles and things like that. So that's kind of the end of it from what I understand. And so, a lot of good instruction and real practical stuff, everything from farm and ranch management, conservation and ethics, wildlife biology, how to pack out, game, like what happens before, kind of pre-hunt planning, as well as when something is down, what do you do? So pretty much it runs the gamut, and I think it's hitting on a lot of those key parts that everybody can who's new to it, definitely needs. If you've been doing it for a long time, a refresher is not a bad thing.
Right.
And so, yeah, I have high hopes for it, for sure.
Cool.
As you pointed out too, Randy, it's like its mere existence is only probably going to help with access. So that's kind of where we're big promoters of it.
Yeah.
It just seems like such a great program for the state of Montana. So
Yeah. Well, I hope it just takes off. And
Yeah.
And do they have? I got an email from it from you guys, and I thought there was an email or a website link or something.
There is, and I can see if I can.
I call it Montana Master Hunter Program, but is that the real
title
that it's given?
I think the Montana Hunter Advancement Program.
Advancement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through
All
that,
right.
and then I will.
Well, I would like people to know about it, create demand for it, and demand will create support for it, because we all know that a lot has changed, and when things are changing, you can't always use the same models that you used 20, 30 years ago. So much has changed. How we share information, how we interact with each other, the whole thing you were talking about, Tim, of how access to ranches used to be pretty easy for the local folks, and now if you grew up in rural America, that may not be the case, because we have this whole dynamic of out-of-state landowners now who you don't even know who owns the land. I remember when Jim used to own that place. I'd just leave him a note, hey, I'm back in whatever corner of the ranch. Now you don't. Jim sold or died, and who knows who owns it. And so that's a dynamic that we have to deal with. And if we're going to solve these access issues, which the number one reason, every survey, they keep doing them. I don't know how much longer they need to keep doing these surveys to come to the same answer. The number one cited reason for people hunting less, quitting hunting, or not getting into hunting, even though they come from a hunting family, is lack of accessible land. And
it's pretty daunting. Like if you're just starting out and stuff, that many times, I have friends that have only been at it a few years and things, and they're like, well, where do you go? You know, and it's kind of like, well, there's a lot of maps out there and things like that. You can point them in the right direction, but it's true. It's a challenge for sure.
And those of us who hunt public land, a lot of people say, I don't believe those surveys. There's not fewer hunters, because there's one that just came out that hunter numbers have dropped like 15% or something in the last few years. And most of my audience is like, I'm calling BS on that. Right. Have you been to the parking lot up at whatever creek? And part of the reason that is so many hunters have lost access to other places. Either it's public land they used to get to through a neighbor would say, yeah, you can get through our property, don't worry about it. Or roads get gated, closed. Or private land that they used to have access to, either through just individual permission or in one of these state access programs, that went away. So you're having less and less access in some places that displace hunters to the public land. So the public lands seem more crowded now than they were 10 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
But the other places people used to have access to has went way down. And that's which is the chicken, which is the egg.
Right.
There. I'm not
hunting
sure,
refugees, right?
Yeah. You got to find a home somewhere.
Right now I'm driving my gold Honda Pilot. I'm thinking that should be my hunting rig, because everybody knows my Nissan Titan.
Yeah.
Because I've been driving them. I've bought 5 of them out of my own pocket. And that's, again, another one. I've had opportunities to use other vehicles, but it's just what works for me. And there's tons of good vehicles out there, but for what I do, the places I go, this Titan models just really work good. Well, the downside is most people are like, oh, look at that Titan with Nissan. That's got Montana plates. So I went away from my old custom license plate that said OYOA on your own adventures. It was a Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation plate that said OYOA. I thought, I'll get rid of the plate. I'll just get a regular Elk Foundation, 6B dash, blah, blah, blah. No one will know me that.
Right.
Wrong. So point of all that is I do see the crowding on public lands at times.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's one trailhead in Colorado we've we've taken some nice mule deer and elk out of there. And usually I have it to myself the first day. And then people, because you got to park right by the main Forest Service road. The next day I show up, I don't have it to myself. And there's been times even when we come out in the dark and there are guys waiting there. It's like, that's got to be Newberg's truck. And I'm like, oh man. So message to everybody, if you have a good spot, don't ask me to go there with you in my truck because it won't be a good spot after that. So
and I'm going to get like an old Honda Civic or something like that.
That's what I'm thinking with that Honda Pilot. That's like an incognito sort of wagon.
Yep.
But this afternoon, I go and pick up my new Nissan Titan.
There you go.
So I have a new one.
Get some scratches on that.
Yeah. And that's one I'm not sure if I'm supposed to let the cat out of the bag, but they called me. Their engineers, Rich Miller, called me 3 or 4 years ago when they were starting to work on the new model. And this is back to this testing and kind of stuff. So the guy in charge of engineering trucks at Nissan, Rich Miller, grew up on a ranch in the Owyhee country of southwest Idaho and is a hunting fanatic.
Nice.
He reaches out to me. He's like, you probably abuse our trucks worse than anybody I know. Can I pick your brain? Sure. Yeah. What do you want to know? Well, so he and I met in Vegas a couple times at SHOT Show, and we'd just go drive these new models when they were working on them before the world knew what they looked like. And so that's fun to get to do that. And so now they called me and said, if we send you one, will you beat it as hard as you possibly can and give us feedback? I'm like, am I going to have to pay for any dents and things? Or what's the deal here?
That's the catch.
Because I've got one of my own that is paid for that. I don't want to do something to this truck that you guys say, well, why would you do that? Here, it costs $8,000 to fix that big dent, Randy. They're like, nope. We want you to just go and abuse this.
Use it like you normally would.
Yeah. So if you guys see a new model Nissan
You're not getting
Titan,
a diesel, are you?
No, I'm not. I told them, I said, because I've driven and tested those, they're really cool trucks. I mean, it's like the diesel, the XD is kind of, the goal is to be a lot more than a half ton as far as payload and towing capacity, but not be quite the rough ride of the 3/4 ton. And so they've accomplished that with the new drivetrain and the diesel that they have in there. But it's a little bit bigger in dimension, and I need the Pro 4X, which is their off-road version, because I need something nimble. My truck becomes a side-by-side. You can tell by the paint job on my truck and the dents and dings that my truck is a side-by-side for all practical purposes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so the approach angles, the breakover angles, the turning radiuses, I need the more nimble ones, so mine will be the gas version of the Pro 4X. But I've made it very clear to their ad agency that when you get this truck back in a year or two, it is not going to look anything like when you dropped it off here in Bozeman, Montana. So
that's cool.
I don't know. How did I get on that tangent? Oh, about vehicles, incognito. So,
that's right.
So a bunch of our partners wanted me to, when I told them, I said, I'm going to be getting this new truck. Well, can we wrap it? I'm like, no.
That's a great way to.
Seriously. I may as well just put Randy Newberg right on the side of it.
Why don't I get one of these devices where I can post my GPS path online or something? It's like, no, I'm not wrapping that thing. So I don't know. We'll see. But I guess if Mystery Ranch wanted to wrap it, no, I wouldn't let you guys wrap it either. I was just going to lie and say, I'd probably let you guys do it, but I wouldn't. So that's fun stuff about what we get to do, the input we have, and a lot of input I get, and this is to try connect to our audiences. I get a lot of our viewers and listeners who give me input or feedback on products I'm using that they've went and bought and they've started using. And it's super, super helpful for me to get, like on our Hunt Talk forum, there's thousands of people out there every day, and none of them are bashful about telling me what they think about whatever. And that's great. You got to have a little bit of thick skin at times, because sometimes it gets communicated in a way that if you didn't have thick skin, you might be, ooh. But it's super, super helpful. And that is feedback that we push on to all of our partners that we work with. And so I'm kind of a conduit to thousands of people of feedback that I can give to you or to any of our partners. And so those of you listening, don't be bashful about sending your feedback. Just understand that, first of all, don't send it on Facebook. I don't do Facebook messaging. I wish you could turn that off. I wish you could say, if someone, kind of like an email, it says, oh, so-and-so's out of the office, or email demon. Is that what it's called when you sent to somebody it's not the correct thing? I wish that would happen in Facebook, because I feel bad when people get a hold of me. I want to be that person who can interact, but I don't have time to answer all these Facebook messages. So that's the point, folks. I want your feedback that I can pass along to partners, but don't send it via Facebook, because it just goes in like a dark hole. I mean, they're over there, and my wife will at times say, do you know how many of those you got? I'm like, I tell the world I don't do Facebook, so just don't send me Facebook messages. If you want to send me emails or private messages out on our Hunt Talk forum, that'll probably get to me, but otherwise I won't. So,
nice.
And hopefully we have a ton of Mystery Ranch users out on our Hunt Talk forum.
Yeah, more feedback the better. You know, it's kind of we use our, repair and warranty center for sure too, is when we see a bag come back, we're clamoring to kind of check it out, see what, if something happened, and use that to inform the design process too. So yeah, if anything's, as you said, you got to have thick skin, and not everything's going to be perfect. So we want to make sure that we understand how people are using it. And sometimes we get something back and we're like, oh man, I never thought anybody would use it this way. Better consider that the next time we build a pack.
Yeah, I can't imagine some of the things that your products get used for. Leupold has what's called the wall of shame when you walk into their office of crazy things people have done to gold ring rifle scopes. And there's always a little story with this mangled scope of how someone thought that was a good idea. And then your mind is like, how did someone start going down that path to use something for that purpose? And I'm sure you guys.
Oh, yeah. There's some crazy, like the fire bags that come back. I mean,
oh, really?
Half of it's melted. Like this pile of goop. And there was one recently, a guy you could see. I mean, he'd gotten chewed up by a bear and needed to be patched. And I mean, or like fell out of his truck. He didn't he had it up on the top or whatever, something stupid. And he drives away and it like bounces down the road and he backs up and get it. And it's just. It's insane. Yeah, any way you can imagine somebody doing something awful to a pack, it happens. So. But,
one of the
fix
things,
it and turn it around.
We've got a couple, too, military packs that come back that have been blown up in IEDs and stuff. And it's
sobering to see that stuff.
It's super sobering to see. I mean, and I'd say the pack stands up pretty well, which is
it's amazing.
We're proud of, but at the same time, you're thinking about how these things are getting used, and it definitely
what that means to the people who are using them.
Oh, yeah.
So are you guys allowed to share what percentage of your business is military versus fire versus
I
mean, I'm just curious, but if you don't want to say it.
What's interesting about it is it can ebb and flow from year to year just based on the need of the military. So some years, it can be as high as 50% or more, and other years it dips down to kind of 40 or so. And some years we get a huge contract and it's 70%. So, we can't really totally plan for it. It depends on what's going on in the world and also government spending, all that kind of stuff. So we just try to keep pulse on it and be ready when it happens.
Yeah. Those on the military side, those guys are in a plane or a vehicle a lot. They're in front of, they travel constantly. So they're all over the place. So
yeah. And I can't imagine some of the abuses. I mean, I try to imagine, but I'm sure where my mind can go isn't even close to what those guys put your packs through.
It's definitely another level. Yeah. It's for sure another level. And that's where there's certain requirements that we know when we look at it realistically are kind of just relative to what's happening on the military side. I think, we can dip below that standard in, say, hunting or mountaineering, but not for military for sure.
Yeah.
Someone's life could be depending on it, so better not mess around.
Yeah, no one dies if Randy messes something up out of the woods.
Yeah, and I always kind of compare it to, it's like, if it's considering how it's good, and it definitely is good enough for that group. What my needs are, it doesn't even compare.
Right.
You know, and so it's when you see the level of use and abuse, and then the thought that goes into it, it's kind of like, I don't need to take my elk hunt that seriously. So I'm really happy with what I've got for that.
The analogy for what your packs can do versus what I put them through is probably like the guy who has the big jacked up 4-wheel drive truck, and he lives in some big city, and he doesn't even know how to put it in 4-wheel drive, right?
Sure.
The level of how far I will abuse the packs compared to what you build them for and design them for based on what some of these military guys are doing. I'm pretty pedestrian compared to
I think most
doing.
are at the end of the day, unless it's like professional stuff, guiding and stuff like that. And the wildland firefighting stuff, I mean, those guys have to, they keep their bags on all the time.
Right.
They have to. Yeah. And so, you want to talk about physical work and just, 12, 15-hour days, and that's like next level stuff. So.
Yeah, I take a break.
I do too.
I don't have
Midday
a fire
naps
raging up a hillside where it's like, you don't get a break, Randy. No, I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm going to sit down here and take a break.
Midday naps are pretty good.
Yeah.
Elk season. So.
Yeah. I would say with spring bear hunting, with all of our other trips, we probably have your packs on our backs 80 to 100 days a year.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So, and some people would probably say, how do I get that job? My wife says it's the best job I ever bought, which implies there's no paycheck that comes with Randy's job.
Right.
But that's all right. I love what I do. And as long as I can pay for this habit with other employment, we'll call that good, and she'll let me keep doing it. I hope.
That's good. It's a good habit.
And as long as I can keep working with great partners and have people like Mystery Ranch who help us and support us and our audience, it's helpful for us. I can't believe I live in Bozeman, Montana, and get to do what I do.
Yeah.
How can people? A lot of people are like, "How you doing today, Randy?" I'm so close to perfect, you can't even measure the difference. That's my normal answer. And usually, when you say perfect or close to perfect, people look at you like,
no way.
Yeah, that guy all right, man? He on drugs or what? But really, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what more could I ask for in life without seeming really selfish and overboard? Live in Bozeman, Montana, get to hunt 100 days a year or be out in the woods 100 days a year. My wife makes me take her fishing as her kind of off-season activity. How can you not be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Or close to.
It's close to it.
And then I get to come and do podcasts at cool places at Mystery Ranch. You guys let me walk around and be a nuisance.
Yeah.
I stick my head in this office, go down where they're doing this, and everyone waves like, oh, yeah, it's just that goofy accountant guy. What's he doing here today? He must have thought we had free donuts or something.
That's right.
Well, I don't know if we've covered everything you guys had in mind, but I could sit and talk about packs and design and testing and engineering forever. But unfortunately, I saw Ryan stick his head in the door like, are you guys going to sit there and talk all day, or are you guys going to get some work done? So is that like the Mystery Ranch 3 knocks? Like,
the knock on the door.
Yeah, that's right. It's like off to the next one. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, we haven't had a train drive by for a while.
No.
So we had like 3 of them earlier. The audience is probably going to think, where's that Mystery Ranch office located?
That's right.
You're not on the wrong side of the tracks. You're just at the tracks.
Yeah.
So,
Real close.
yeah. So, but anyhow, is there anything that we need to add that we didn't cover? I had this list.
Only thing I'll add, I guess, is for those interested, the website.
Oh, for the Montana Advanced Hunter thing.
So that is montanamasterhunter.com.
Montana spelled out.
Yep. All one word together, montanamasterhunter.com. Yep.
Go there, folks, and check it out. And if the list is full by the time this podcast airs, it will be full. Sorry about that. We should have done this earlier. No, no, they should have made their list, their deadline after our podcast. I know. What the heck? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
But go out there. Hopefully it's a success and there's a waiting list and there's a way to get on a bigger list next time.
Yeah.
Whenever that'll be.
And then for everybody listening, just send us your feedback. How are the packs working? What do you like? What don't you like?
Yeah. Where do they
send it? Luke Boswell at Niner, Yahoo.
Is there a place where they send that feedback, or is that just a generic request, Tim? Do they send it to you?
I think it can be to us, via our, kind of an info ad on mysteryranch.com. Obviously, I think the Hunt Talk forum is a great place too.
Yeah.
To get things, kicked off. I've seen plenty of great, conversations about stuff. So
yeah,
we're always eager to hear how people like stuff, don't like stuff. So
yeah, well,
keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, you got any parting comments, Luke? A lot of times we ask people for marital advice. I don't even know. I no.
I mean, it's just do what they say, and I'll look to you for marital advice.
Okay, well, that puts a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. But because someone sent me an email of Randy, it's been like 5 podcasts since you've given any marital advice. So I'm like, well, how do I weave marital advice into a talk about badass backpacks? What? Buy your wife one for her birthday?
There's probably some sort of load carrier.
That's what you guys need to start. Buy your wife a backpack month, or buy your wife a backpack week, or buy your spouse, or buy your boyfriend, girlfriend a pack week.
I know if I bought my wife a hunting pack, she'd probably look at me and be like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not packing anything out with you." She'd probably be pissed. So.
Yeah, that's She's like, you can carry your own stuff. That's
all right, so maybe marketing isn't my strong suit. Well, I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
You bet. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. And I'll try not to be a stranger, and I'll come by and we'll bring the camera guys. We'll do some video stuff. Because I think when these new lines come out, you can see them on the website and everything. But for our audience, they'd love to see one of you explaining, okay, here's the new one, here's the features, here's what we see it used for. Yep. And then we'll grab them, we'll take them out and use them. We'll come back next year and say, yeah, this is how it worked.
Yeah, that's the fun stuff. Yeah.
And we'll give like 100 free packs to listeners.
100. Have to ask marketing on that one.
We get 3 knocks to get Ryan in here.
Okay, we're going to talk to marketing about that. Okay, sorry, folks. Didn't mean to get your hopes up.
We'll do something.
But no, we'll be over and we'll continue this discussion in more detail, maybe on video and YouTube. And
that'd be great.
Yeah.
In the interim, thanks for supporting us and supporting our audience and for making badass packs.
Same to you.
Hey, thanks.
It's been awesome.
And for putting up with me.
Anytime.
Well, thank you. And thanks to you folks. Appreciate all you who listen and who share this podcast. Until the next time, take care.